Alright guys, and welcome to a new video for the first time in a while. Now I'm not going to get into explaining it, I'm just going to carry on doing the film reviews. Nothing's changing with the channel. I'll leave a few reasons in the description, but don't worry, everything's just going to carry on the way it was. The only little difference with the channel, which is the main reason why I started doing the videos again, is the Light Cinema in Warsaw. They contacted my college and they wanted someone from the college to do film reviews for their social media pages and on their blog. Now people at my college got in contact with me, they've seen that I've made YouTube videos and they want me to just make videos that they can then put on their social media pages. Yeah, getting straight into the video, I'm going to be doing a multi-review of 3 films that have come out recently. They are It Comes at Night, Spider-Man Homecoming and War for the Planet of the Apes. So if we first get into It Comes at Night.
We never go out at night.
The door was already open when you got there.
Yeah.
Then who opened it?
The film was directed by Trey Edward Schultz and it stars Joel Edgerton, Carmen Ego and Kelvin Harris. One thing with this film is the trailers are very deceptive, I think. One thing I did notice when I came out of the film is a lot of people like that was such a terrible film, and I feel like they wouldn't have thought that if they knew what they were going into. Now with the trailers it makes it look like a cliche horror film with jump scares and a supernatural element type thing, and it makes it seem like it's going to be very basic, but it's not. The film's a lot deeper than that from my own opinion. It didn't have all the classic horror tropes where it was filled with jump scares. It was a very slow film, it was a very tense film, and I've got to say I really enjoyed it. Now the performances from Joel Edgerton and the other 2 main actors, actresses, names not too familiar, they all gave great performances, and there are some other characters. I'm not going to get into that because it could spoil it. There isn't too much revealed in the trailer. I'm not going to spoil any of the other characters because it is a very isolated film, and getting into too much of the world building might ruin your experience. The one problem I have with It Comes at Night is it doesn't really have a satisfying resolution, which is also a good thing with a film, but I feel like it would have been a much better film if it had sort of, I don't know, a conclusion which explains some things that happen earlier in the film, because it leaves a lot of it to your own interpretation. I definitely recommend to go and see It Comes at Night, and if I'm going to give it a rating, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Moving on to a more familiar film, we've got War for the Planet of the Apes.
You're Caesar. We've been searching for you for so long.
I did not start this war. I fight only to protect apes.
Human gets sick, ape gets smart. Then human kill ape, but not me. I run.
Now I have watched the 2 previous films in the trilogy, and I've also watched the original film from the 50s. I'm not too familiar with the first 2 in this series. I've not watched them multiple times. I think I've watched them both once, but from what I can remember they were really good films. Obviously the director changed when he went to Dawn for the Planet of the Apes to Matt Reeves, and he also carried on to direct this film. And again we've got Andy Serkis using motion capture to perform as Caesar, and also we've got the addition of Woody Harrelson as the main villain type colonel character in this film, sort of in charge of the human army. Now again, if I give you a brief quick review, this film again, it is beautifully shot. The motion capture in this film, it's some of the best CGI motion capture work you will ever see. Honestly, Andy Serkis could get an Oscar for this film. I think he should. It's honestly incredible. The story of this film was really well developed, and it did a good thing that most blockbuster films don't do, which it didn't give away all the story in the trailers, which I'll get onto with Spider-Man Homecoming, which pretty much did that. But this film, I couldn't see where a lot of the story was going, which is a massive bonus. Also, the villain played by Woody Harrelson, it was a great villain. He had backstory, he had meaning for what he was doing, which you don't always need, but it does help. It helps you see the reasoning behind like the evil, and he was a good counterpart to all the apes and Caesar. Another massive thing is there's a lot of emotional weight in this film. A lot of people around me in the cinema were crying, and I wasn't as invested as them. I wasn't as close to crying, but it was definitely emotional. Now I did have one problem with War for the Planet of the Apes, and I can't get into it because it's spoilers, but towards the end of the film something happens, like a plot device sort of happens, which it just seemed a bit too convenient, and it wasn't just a small thing that you can forget. It's a big thing in the story of the trilogy. I don't really want to say it because it is a massive spoiler, but when you see it, you might feel the same way I did. It doesn't completely ruin it, but it did take it. Honestly, this could have been a 9, maybe a 10 out of 10 if that was settled better. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Again, I'd recommend you going to watch it, and I'm going to give War for the Planet of the Apes an 8 out of 10. Now, moving on to the most familiar film in this review, we're going to look at Spider-Man Homecoming.
Listen, I know school sucks.
Peter,
You still with us?
Yeah.
I know you want to save the world, but you're not ready yet.
You're the Spider-Man.
No, I'm not. I'm not. This is just a costume. This is from the ceiling.
Now this is Spider-Man's second outing in the MCU, but it's his first standalone film. The film was directed by John Watts and it stars Tom Holland as Spider-Man and Michael Keaton playing the Vulture. Now I have to say I'm going into this film with pretty biased expectations in the fact that I love the first two Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. They're not only some of my favourite comic book films and favourite superhero films, but they're two of my favourite films ever. Like, I watched them so much growing up as a kid. I can watch them whenever. Like, I recently watched it, I think it was around a week ago, and I love these films. They're incredible. So going into this film, I had massive expectations, and it's probably unfair, but I did compare it to the originals quite a bit, even though it's, honestly, in the comics there's like over 100 different versions of Spider-Man, so I can't really do that. I have to look at them all individually, but I was doing it subconsciously. Now I have to say, I've probably got the unpopular opinion with this film. Everyone else seems to love it and think it's the best Spider-Man film or one of the best Spider-Man films and one of the best films in the MCU, and I think it's a good film. I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, which I'm not saying I'm a DC fanboy, even though I do prefer most DC films. I just don't really like the tone that they go with, because there's sometimes a lot of stakes going on and they're still cracking jokes and it just doesn't really work. I think it suits in a film like Deadpool where it knows what it is, but a lot of these films I don't think it knows what tone it's trying to go for, and that was the same with Spider-Man. I preferred the original tone for the original Spider-Mans, where even though it was lighthearted and he made a few jokes here and there, it still got quite dark, like the ending with Green Goblin. Spoilers for a very old film, he gets pierced by his own hoverboard and it's quite graphic, whereas in this film it just felt all a bit childish and light and fluffy, and I didn't really like the tone too much. Tom Holland as Peter Parker was great, and as Spider-Man he put in a really good performance, but I have to say I preferred Tobey Maguire, even though he was like a 25-30-year-old man playing a teenage kid. Michael Keaton was really good as the villain, and there's a few twists in there with Spider-Man and the villain, but overall the end battle, to give the conclusion, I didn't think it was very good, and I don't know, I really wanted to love this film but I didn't. The last little nitpicky thing I have with this film is there's way too much technology going on with Spider-Man's suit. It doesn't even feel like he's got the power anymore. It feels like he's just Iron Man's sidekick, where he's got a suit where he's got like Spider-Man grenades or web grenades. I mean, I just don't, it doesn't feel like Spider-Man to me, and for some people who've read comics where this is what Spider-Man's like, you might love it, and that's fair enough. Honestly, I didn't really like this film as much as everyone else, but I definitely recommend everyone going to see it because I feel like most people will really like it. Saying that, I'm going to give Spider-Man Homecoming a 6.5 out of 10. That's definitely an unpopular opinion, but I just can't help but love the first two, and I wanted this to be as good as them, maybe even surpass it, and it just didn't do it for me. Yeah, that's all the reviews I've got for this video. I know they're a bit short, and I'm going to try and make the rest of the reviews, now that I've started doing videos again, much longer, a lot more in detail. There's probably a few things that I missed in here, so if you've got any queries or points that you want to make yourself, leave them in the comments and I'll probably interact and give you my opinion on them. There's a lot more I could have spoke about, but I wanted to make this video as short as possible so I could get it out quicker. Another quick thing I wanted to mention is I did a video before I stopped doing videos with 2 takes, and it was a collab, but as when I was gone away, I think someone somehow got into my account because they changed the name of the video and then deleted it. And then, I don't know, there was a few things in the description where I think someone got into my account and changed things. I'm going to sort all that out and then re-upload the video. Yeah, sorry about that, and sorry to 2 takes if it looks like I've just deleted the video, because I know they put a lot of work into it. But yeah, if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.